kind of like one of a gift that you can give to your kid besides driving every other weekend to a tournament, whether it's a GASO or whether it's to a Nike. You spend so much time traveling, so much money traveling to chase to chase a scholarship or chase the dream of playing in college basketball. But what besides that, those are resources. One resource that is left out is the game of basketball, of watching it at the next level. If you live here in Dallas, this is the easiest example I can give you. We have JUCO, Texas Wesleyan for NAIA, who has won a national championship, multiple national championships. UTA, who's a mid-major type team. North Texas, all of their success. SMU. It's real easy to get in the car and just say, "Oh, I'm going to go to TCU." Right? That's the Big 12. That's the best league in the country by Analyst. But don't forget about everybody else.
Welcome to the Jamodi Podcast. We are all surrounded by amazing coaches and leaders. So let's get an inside look at not just what they do, but how they do what they do. After all, becoming the best versions of ourselves is Jamodi, just a matter of doing it.
Today we are joined by the recruiting analyst and event director for Great American Shootout, Blue Zertuche. Blue started out as a manager at SFA and then held a grad assistant position at Texas A&M Kingsville. In 2004, he joined Coach Kunstad and Great American Shootout. For the last 20 years, he's helped run GASO events all over Texas, as well as connected college coaches to high school players. Blue also co-hosts the GASO Cast, a podcast by Great American Shootout. Whether it's tournament recaps, player rankings, or in-season analysis, they're your source for all things Texas high school basketball. Before we hear from Blue, take a moment to subscribe to our podcast and follow us on social media at Jamodi Podcast.
There he is.
Man, I'm giving myself away. Centerpiece.
Oh,
can you
look
see
at that? Oh yeah.
Oh, okay.
That's incredible. Oh, you know what? I couldn't see. Tell me, are those signatures at the bottom?
They're fake. They're facts. What are they called? Not facts. Yeah, facsimile.
Okay. But
I don't have any cards with their signatures on it.
So
I had a Yoda once, and that sold for.
So what you're telling me is that is it Star Wars, Godfather, or neither? It's Star Wars.
It's hard. I'm a Godfather guy. Like
okay.
Oh, we can talk. I mean, dude, I'm just like
let's keep going. No, because I love the fact that you have that behind you.
Here's the thing. A couple things here, and you can edit this in. I don't care.
Oh, this is all in, just so you know.
Okay. So when I don't know what it is, but when I need some noise in the background, there's two go-to things I do. One, I turn on Star Wars and just let it roll, and then I'll go to Empire. I'll go to New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, all the 70s and 80s stuff.
Yeah.
Charlie Brown.
Interesting.
Put Charlie Brown cartoons in the background and just let it roll.
That white noise just kind of works for you a little bit.
I'm very nostalgic in everything.
Yeah.
I mean, my kids listen to 70s and 60s music with me, and they're like, "Oh, wait, who is that?"
You're a good parent.
And so they just consistent. I mean, that's the way I grew up. Is that they just
yeah. Now, do you get into the episodes, because you're talking about 4, 5, and 6? Do you get into episodes 1, 2, 3, 7, 8, 9?
1, 2, 3 were very difficult for me back in the 90s, and as they set up. But I was there lined up at midnight to watch them, and then I think actually number 2, the Attack of the Clones, is a very, very good kind of storyline that they start going into. And then the third one, oh gosh, when Anakin becomes Darth Vader.
Oh, powerful.
There's a lot. I think though too, that's also one that I haven't let my kids watch yet, because there's a lot of just like the symbolism.
It's dark,
very dark,
and it's sad to see where he came from and the sweetness. I mean, if you're a parent and you've ever, like, I think the things you and I have younger kids, and like they're not adults yet. Like, the thing that is probably the biggest worry is Not that they'll make mistakes, they will.
Yeah.
How big, how far will they go? Will they still be that sweet? Will that, like, do we still get to see that part of them? And you lose that in Anakin. And the only part of it, I'll tell you, I feel the same way. One was difficult, but then, again, learning more about probably the biggest character. Somebody say Luke's the biggest character. I don't know. I think it's all about Anakin. It's all about Darth and his redemption story throughout. But it's when he becomes, they get him in all the stuff, and he has that no scream. No.
Yeah.
It's so bad. Like, how many takes did it get just to get that? And it was no one sitting there in the editing room going like, this doesn't sound good.
It's just the best gift that you could actually use in responding to friends, though. Because it's so dumb.
Yeah. But I was a
like,
fan of that one, though. I did. I liked it.
My kids are really, they're into Star Wars. They've said they're 9 and 7, so they've like, yeah, you've done it with Charlie Brown.
Lego Star Wars is pretty legit too. It's clever.
We've done that. Like, yeah, we'll screen some stuff and we'll watch it with them. But yeah, it's
This is what you wanted to talk about, right? This is what we wanted our session to be about. Is about Star Wars. And
you want to know me personally, which I think that you know a lot about me. You know what? There's just like it's just an open door. I mean,
and you got a guitar in the background. I mean, is that you dabble?
I can mess around with like the A, D, E, C. So all the romantic songs of the 80s and 70s. At one point, I wanted to be a DJ as I was growing up, and so
awesome.
But, yeah. But then I don't know. As I was in high school and getting into college, like I don't know if I want to work a graveyard shift from midnight to 4 or 5, and nobody be listening. So yeah, Sam will name that tune of 80s songs, and I can kind of.
You got it. I always hope that
60s, 70s, and 80s. Yeah. It's kind of like,
I always hope that these talks, I mean, that people are. I believe most everybody's transparent and authentic with their answers, and I'll bring a little bit. Literally last night, it's just funny that you have that guitar. Literally last night, we're watching one of these NBA playoff games, and I've been listening to. Fascinated with people's daily habits, just like the morning routines. Not that I have a great one, the evening routine, I really struggle with that, but just love to hear like what people do, what sets them up for success. So somehow got turned on to this guy. I think it's Ben Greenfield, and I may be butchering that because literally it was just yesterday, but he has this, oh man, robust morning routine, night routine. But one thing he does at night is 15 minutes of some type of instrument play. And the whole idea with him was connecting his mind and his brain to more of that artsy side. So like you in college, like I think most 19 to 20-year-olds, we pick up a guitar and think, yeah, I want to learn how to do a couple things. So I know very simple chords, but I got that guitar out last night. My son and my wife are sitting there and they're looking at me all strange because I've never in 10 years, my fingers, and all I did was just kind of strum and just play around a little bit. My fingers are on fire today, but it's just funny. That's something I want to start to do for 15 minutes a night, and just to connect to that kind of side of either my brain, because with work and basketball, it's just not very artistic. Yeah. Except for the way we play. I do not.
Wife plays piano. Son is in piano lessons. The 9-year-old is, and he did a recital a couple weeks ago. He kind of blew me away.
Wow.
By it and everybody in that elementary school age that were there. And then he's starting to pick up the drums. My youngest son we got him electric guitar because we're going to put him in lessons over the summer. And he's kind of funny just because he just strums it, not knowing what to do. And I show him a couple like E's or D's or something very simple, and he'll just sit there strumming it the whole time and singing. The singing pattern and strumming at the same time, not everybody can do that.
Yeah.
So I just kind of laugh at him. It's kind of goofball stuff that we mess around with, but we're big music people here. So there's any kind of genre of like Motown to 50s doo-wop, Beatles, Elvis. then all the questions start coming in from them.
Yeah.
It's just, we're very diverse.
Well, man, selfishly, I've been really looking forward to this call because I've enjoyed our friendship over the years and feel like, especially in the last maybe five years or so, been able to get closer learn more about you. But for this time to find out even more, because I think you're in the business of helping young people realize their dreams, which is so cool. But I would imagine you probably are just you're asked a lot of questions about other people. This I'm excited to get to learn more about your way of thinking, how you see things. So just honored that you give up your time here, man.
This is awesome. This is great. I know we've been talking about it a long time. You have a long list. I'm glad that you can kind of fit me in, and we just we'll just have fun.
I'm fitting other people and not you. Okay. Don't get no. So I think before I have a few questions that because again, I think you're a little different with the way that you watch the game. And so I want to get into that. But first, I love to know a little bit of just how you got into this role and the side of basketball. It's really important for players. I mean, you've really done a great job of filling that need for them. So how did this all start for you?
It started just with just heading up to Converse Judson Summer League, and so they just needed some coaches, and I was always into baseball before, so but just like the speed of the game, and I had always watched it. I mean, I grew up in the '80s and the '90s of some of the greatest basketball players of all time, whether it was NBA or even college, watching Christian Laettner.
Yeah.
I went to Converse Judson High School, and then I got to see the battles of Judson and East Central and San Antonio Sam Houston, and it was an amazing time that I didn't know. Like I was talking to somebody the other day, even my wife, I'm like, how did I get here? Like, how did my path really get to this point? Was one just kind of dumb luck. I mean, I just show up, I start helping out, just in a summer league setting. Then it grew into actually running the summer league program at Judson and for Mike Wacker. And so people don't know like all of these little details about me, but guess where I took the teams? We went to GASO. I was the guy running around just like everybody else, talking to Sam and Mike, not knowing what was going to be set up in the future for me. I mean, this is mid '90s, late '90s, and here I am. I'm tugging on their shirt, dude. I got Division Ones. I got Division Ones. I joke around to this day. The four kids I told them that were Division One, I was right about, and all four
Nice.
Division One. And then it's just kind of a running joke, just because Sam will sit there and go, I had no idea who you were. You were just kind of always at the San Antonio Gases. We drove up to Denton when the big July event was up in Denton that I believe you played in.
That's right.
And so these steps that I took were probably not really, not going to say unique, but wanted to be a Major League Baseball scout, and then turning down a job with the Astros to take this job. Here I am, because I graduated later in life. That's nothing to be ashamed about, but I graduated and I went to Stephen F. Austin, was a manager there, and then started traveling with the GASO, whether they were in San Antonio. I just meet them there for the weekend, Dallas, Houston, and that's just kind of where it was. And I looked at it not so much to get a job with them, but there was at one point when I was at Stephen F. Austin, I'm standing next to Steve Lutz, who is, now the head coach over at Western Kentucky, and I'm standing next to Coach Lutz, and I was like, this is what I want to do, because I thought I wanted to be a high school basketball coach. And so he's like, what? I go, I just want to go and recruit. And I did get that opportunity. I went to Texas A&M Kingsville. I remember I went on a 31-day recruiting hunt, and I went to see a lot of basketball games. And of course, Division II rules are a lot different than Division I's. So I went all over the state, met up for obviously any type of scouting pregame stuff that we had for if we're at Stephenville playing Tarleton State. Go there after the game, get in the car, so I can drive into Dallas, go run around. And that's just really, I have a lot of I'm very fortunate that I have a lot of experiences at different places along the way, watching Division 1, watching Division 2, and then when you're in Division 2, as you know, you're playing against NAIA, you're playing against other non D1s, and one lesson that I did learn from Coach Kunstadt, which there's plenty of them. Mike Kunstadt was, we were sitting around, and I'm sorry if I'm jumping around.
No, you're good.
The way my brain works, and so, he was. Obviously he was testing me in some way. He's like, hey, give me your top 10. And I'm like, well, that's easy. Those are all the top high major, mid-major players. He's like, if you can't figure that out, then you can't figure anything else out, because placement of level of play is so important, even to this day. And I've just been mentored by Mike Kunstadt, Sam Lowe, Steve Lutz, and so many other people. Rodney Terry was the first phone call that I received about recruiting one of the players that I was just coaching in summer, and it was nothing. It wasn't that he was coming to me. He was talking to Mike Wacker. He was talking to me. As it turned out to be Tim Burnett, who went out to UNC Wilmington with Rodney back in, I don't know if that's 2000, 2001. But anyway, there's just so many people that transformed my life to where I am today. And like I said earlier, I was a baseball guy. So when I turned down a job with my childhood team of the Houston Astros, growing up with Nolan Ryan as my hero, I mean, it was an immediate no.
Yeah.
I was already told by Kunstead I was going to come in full time. That was back in 2004. So
there's a couple things with your story that I really like. One is I appreciate your humility by saying dumb luck, but you and I both know, I mean, you look back over your path, that maybe at the time it didn't seem like a big thing, but now looking back, there's those little tiny key moments. Me meeting Tommy Thomas at a camp during my 8th grade and 9th grade summer. I lived up in Pennsylvania. Meeting him, I told him the other day, there's not a person in my life that's changed the trajectory of it like him. I mean, God putting him in my life at that time. So you and I both know no such thing as dumb luck, but then also the power of showing up. I mean, I just wrote that word down. Like, I think now that's a skill that players need to have. They need to continue to show up, even at our workplace, or as coaches. Man, there's days where it's really tough where our team's not playing well. Well, we have to continue to model that skill of showing up for our players and for our parents too. So I just appreciate that. That's something that you had, that ability to show up. And I know, knowing Coach Kunstad, I bet that was a huge thing to him.
Well, also showing up right there is kind of key, because I wasn't auditioning for a job for him as I was this gopher of go do clock and book, go run over here, take the food down to court 2, go do this. Hey, go watch play on court 3. It was more of me trying to make sure I had a reference of like if I was going to go into the college coaching or wherever I was going to wind up next. And I never knew that's what it was going to lead to. But I did know, I mean, eventually you get to a point where it's like, oh man, this is great stuff. This is, you sit here and you just, the amount of relationships that are built, I just, remember so many times being in the gym and, whether it was Duke or Kentucky, whoever it was, I mean, there was always an opportunity there to go help and to go, whether it was to go correct something in a book or get somebody a new name. And it's just things like that added to moving me into this direction too.
Yeah.
And so the relationships are big. And you say about showing up also is that you just never know who's kind of watching. And that's kind of where recruiting is. That's where you just don't know who's in the building. You don't know who might like something that you possess that they're lacking, whether on a basketball court or even in life, in a business sense of like what your job, because you're not just out here. I don't think kids should just sit here and think I'm out here to be the best basketball player. I'm out here to be the best, probably teammate first. And teams are in every part of corporations, or in every part of business that you have. And where do you fit? And then you find your role, because not everybody's going to be the best brainstormer. Nobody's going to be the best leader of maybe 50 people, but you can lead 5 or 6 and have influences on those people. I just think that anything with sports, as we have both come across, piques a lot of people's interest because they want to hear stories. They want to know more about you as a person and how that's going to relate to your next job, whether it's on the basketball court or in an office, an engineer, a teacher, and so forth.
That's a great point. Typically, if you've been successful on a sports team, then you understand things like knowing your role, also delayed gratification. That's such a valuable lesson, and that people need to know. And automatically, for these kids, for these young men, when they put on their college transcript or their job application one day that they played high school basketball, automatically they get put into a category of, okay, has been a part of a group, knows how to hopefully work with others. Coaches, the Jamodi podcast is powered by Ballogy. Manage and measure your players' skill development and increase accountability year-round utilizing the Ballogy app. Boost inter-squad competition with drills backed by the National High School Basketball Coaches Association, including a 40-shot Ballogy skills assessment. Please visit ballogy.com/teams for information on how you can provide this resource for your team. I wanted to ask about intangibles, because obviously, you were just watching over the summer thousands of players, and like Coach Kunstad said, you better be able to recognize the top 10, those guys that are just blowing you away. But there's a large chunk of players that are underneath that. I mean, the majority of them. What are some intangibles that jump out to you when you're just in a gym evaluating a bunch of players?
I think the first thing that catches anybody's eye is athleticism. I mean, when you're looking at a player, the athleticism of somebody is going to stick out more than anything else. How you run, your stride, your ability to get off the floor for not just a rebound, but just the second chance rebound.
Yes.
Then obviously you have to have some type of feel as a person watching and evaluating. And I think that when you're getting into having to watch a game, whether you watch it from a view of did you see the back cut, did you see the down screen, or if you're just watching the play in general develop along with how the player plays the play and what they're going to do. I mean, that's why athleticism is so important and so valuable. But we also know shot making is what wins games. I mean, I've been able and always try to circle a game or two to go see y'all. And what do? You're looking for the open shots. If you can't hit open shots, more than likely you can't play at the next level. You can't. Your percentage is going to be lower anyway when somebody contests your shot or is guarding you. But if you're wide open, and you can't hit shots, that's a little bit of a problem. So that goes on to the second point of, what do you do if you don't have the athleticism? Are you a shot maker? Are you a defender? Are you a switchable? So many. There's a lot of emphasis now on just being a switchable player. Can you guard the 1, the 2, the 3? Where are you most valuable on the court? I don't have all the answers because I see the game so differently. Because when you line up Sam Lowe, who's been doing this for 27, 28 years, who saw you play, or Ryan Massid, Lyndon Cook, anybody that we have out there evaluating, we all see it a little bit different. And so it's always good that we have the ability to say, Sam, and he's my compass just because I've been with him for 22, 23 years. Like, I need you to go watch this kid.
Yeah.
And so we all see things differently, but the athleticism, the shot making ability, the toughness in working hard are skills.
Yes.
You can't teach toughness. You either have it or you don't. And you can fake it, but it's seen very quickly if you're fake tough. And so, those types of things, along with the emotional, how do you play through certain peaks and valleys of a game, your character as a player on the court, your emotions, your body language, it's very easy to pick out the guy that's kind of sour because he's sitting on the bench and you got 11 other guys in a huddle, including managers and trainers, and you got the guy right there with the towel in his lap.
I love that.
We also like attention.
Go ahead.
Too. No, I was just gonna say we also like attention, but that is negative attention that is getting thrown on you.
No doubt, no doubt. There's two sides to that attention coin. You definitely. I always tell the guy, like, have pride in or arrogance in showing off control when you play. Control not just in how you handle it, but also your emotions, your enthusiasm. I love that list that you have there. It's just funny you mentioned Sam. I'm thankful for Sam and Coach Kunstad. One for hopefully not basing everything off of athleticism, or else I would have been passed over. Because, like, I was looking at that list, I thought, okay, average athleticism, but then you start to get to feel, shot making, and then thankfully because of guys like Coach Thomas, toughness and hardworking, and then because of PGC, like attitude. So like for players out there, it's not just being, you can be average at one of these areas, but you can't be average in all of them. And you can't be bad, really bad, probably in any of them either. Like, I was an average athlete, not putting my chin on the rim, but I could move. But the other part, like, there was more of an accept, and this is not humble at all, but I think there was, for a high school kid, more of an exceptional piece to it. But I think it's important for coaches to explain, like, kind of that scale right there, and be honest with players of where we see them at, but then give them the tools, the roadmap to hopefully improve.
And to kind of add to that point, of like what I personally look for, and I guess this goes more into probably your philosophy of coaching also, is that I want to see a guy that if you're a shooter, if you're a guy that's going to run the lane, that you're going to run the wing, what are you doing to get open? And I know this is very specific, but what are you doing to get open? Because so many times that I'm watching now, if you have a really good point guard, or a point guard that will at least get the ball in the middle, and you're filling the lanes and you're going toward your basket in an offensive transition, what are you doing as a wing? I see so many times guys just stop at the 45-degree angle.
Yeah.
Why are we not teaching interchanging? Are we not teaching, where I have to make sure that I'm not faulting somebody because they're running the play, or are they just stopping?
Yeah.
And then you can figure it out real quick when some guy's just sitting there clapping and with his hands open, you just stopped. You're not moving. You're not making yourself.
I think that goes to feel. Some of it may be strategy. Like, we teach our guys at any point, why can you cut right to the basket? Because I don't like rim cuts for no reason, or going rover. We don't do that. So it has to be organized. There has to be a purpose. But if there's no defender between you and the basket, by all means, in transition, rim run, like, get there. But the moment that you recognize, which is a big word, that you recognize that there is a defender between you and the basket, then we need space. And so we get to the deep corners, block extended, because to me, stopping at that free throw line is a lack of feel, a lack of basketball cue, because the moment that you stop at that 45, your defender does too. And then any type of gap that the primary ball handler might have had is taken away. So, like, I completely see that as feel, for sure.
Yeah, and that also once again leads into the recruitment of somebody, because I think that I have done this long enough with my experience of being courtside for multiple levels of college basketball, is that some guys don't fit in every box, because you could be a freakish athlete, but you're low on skill. So what box does that put you in on the level of play at the next level?
Yep.
And so then you're talking about high IQ, the feel of the game. I mean, that so much of that has to come from the guards and from your wings, just because the big man in today's college basketball game is utilized so much differently than it was 15, 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Working off high ball screens. And so those are all key little elements that I look at to see how somebody is going to obviously hopefully take to the next level. Do they have enough tools to get to the next level, and where are those boxes that they really fit into? Because so the levels are different from Division III to JUCO all the way up to D1. And parents don't want to hear this, but not everybody's D1. And just because you can't play D1 doesn't mean you can play D2. And so it's amazing, because I've come through a lot of conversations, even with former college basketball coaches, that like to hear our opinion But even there, even talking to them, they see the game so differently, and they have a bias. It's their kid,
Mm-hmm.
so going out there and watching games is one thing, but I have to actually, if somebody asks you a question, I never shy away from it. You just have to
Yeah.
be, you have to kind of know your limits of who you're talking to sometimes too.
One of my least favorite phrases that coaches put out there, you see it in pictures all the time, is be a star at your role. I understand like what they're getting at, like, and I agree. Whatever I tell my players, whatever you need to do, whatever role you need to fill to get on the floor, do that. But
Yeah.
don't think that, okay, if you're just a hustle guy, charge taker in high school, those are the two things that you do. Don't think that that's going to train, but you have aspirations to play at the next level, that's enough. So yes, maybe at Grapevine Faith Christian School, that's just, and you're a sophomore, your role when you get into the game is to give amazing effort, to play good defense, to rebound. That's usually, it would be make open threes too. But for this conversation, but what I would come around and tell them behind the scenes is, if you do want to play at the next level, you like, and you said it, you got to be able to make open shots. And the more that you can create for yourself and others, to me, that just makes you so much more valuable in whatever system or scheme that coach sitting there watching. He sees you do something. Oh yeah, that will work with what we do. So like, to me, I think that list that you said almost it validates my idea of, like, people will use Dennis Rodman or Patrick Beverly
Yeah.
as examples. Rodman averaged like 20 in college. Like,
Oh
he
yeah.
scored. Just because in the NBA he had one game where he had 0 points and 26 rebounds doesn't mean that's the path for this high school kid to play at the next level. That's just my, sorry, soapbox. I'm off of it now.
Oh no, but those are like really good examples, and every team probably needs somebody that's willing to go rebound, and that's another skill that obviously the bigs need to go do. Believe it or not, I mean, I'm 5'6", but when I was at Stephen F. Austin and I was at Texas A&M Kingsville, my job was to work with the big men. And hey, you know what? I would probably say I'm probably pretty tough because I got a lot of elbows in my face, a bloody nose one time, and I get hooked by this one guy. And I said, "Man, I wish that you played against that way in the game." Because I'm 5'6". I'm glad, big tough,
Yeah.
and so it's one of those things that where I am drawn to like the big man game of the footwork, the just being able just to pivot correctly and face up, the hands, the way you move from block to block. I mean, those things right there are kind of natural for me to watch, even though these guys are a foot taller than me, or sometimes maybe even 16 inches taller than me. They could be 6'9", 6'10", and so it's being on the sideline. I've just learned a lot. I watch a lot of college basketball too, and that's the one thing. You talk about soapboxes. This is my one thing, especially for parents, is that people are guessing, I think, out there at levels. And so, but what have you done as a parent? People, because parents will ask. We've done at our camps. I brought this up. You've been to our camps before,
Yeah.
and the greatest kind of like one of a gift that you can give to your kid, besides driving every other weekend to a tournament, whether it's a GASO or whether it's to a Nike, you spend so much time traveling, so much money traveling to chase a scholarship or chase the dream of playing in college basketball. But what besides that, those are resources. One resource that is left out is the game of basketball, of watching it at the next level. If you live here in Dallas, this is the easiest example I can give you. We have JUCO. We have JUCO with, and I'm not going to list everybody, but you have Collin County. You have the ability to get to Collin County. Texas Wesleyan for NAIA, who has won a national championship, multiple national championships. UTA, who's a mid-major type team. North Texas, all of their success. SMU. It's real easy to get in a car and just say, "Oh, I'm going to go to TCU," right? That's the Big 12. That's the best
Yep.
league in the country by Analyst. But don't forget about everybody else.
Yeah.
Because
UTD.
you're honest with yourself. UTD's the
Yeah.
D3, DBU. I mean, we just
Yep.
mentioned every level
Yep.
here. And if you go to Houston, the same thing. Dallas, if you live in a big metroplex area, you're going to be able to get to that. And sometimes those games are free. You just have to spend time in gas. And I think that's such a crucial part of learning who you are as a player that it's not taken advantage of. Anybody can sit and watch Big Monday, but that's not who everybody is.
That's a great nugget, man, and not something that I've thought about is how we're not utilizing the resources that we have in this area wisely. And as a coach, with players that have aspirations, what a great idea to say, hey, like what level are you thinking about? Well, I'm this, and I really want to play here. Well, hey, let's go down to UTD and let's watch a game. Let's watch Coach Butterfield. Let's watch Coach Gron over there, like at University of Dallas, because I was working the Mavs coaches clinic last fall, and Coach Butterfield's group was who we used, the UT Dallas players, D3 coach. They were humongous. Like they were all. I was one of the shortest dudes on the floor, and I'm thinking, this is Division III basketball. For those people, for those guys that might maybe players I've had, or for anybody that turned their nose up at that, go and watch how elite of basketball it is, and at that level how big they are. Like it's just harder than you think.
And you have to sit there to experience it, to see it, and to appreciate it.
Yeah.
I have talked to many parents that have asked me had to ask me a question of what can I be doing? And they actually go and do it. And if I get a return call or I bump into someone like, you were right. My son has a lot to go in order to really get where his dream is, which is Division I. And there's different paths to Division I, especially with the portal, which I'm sure we'll get into. But one thing I will say about Division III is think about what kind of and this is not an advertisement for Division III, but it's a league that sometimes people go, it's D3. Think of those coaches. Think how hard those coaches work. They call, say they have a list of 10. They got to find out grades. They have to find out what they're interested in, because they're usually you're going to get the Division III is going to have some type of specialty school. UTD is like computer technology type stuff. And so what happens is they have to ask all these questions. They're going to strike out probably 90% of the time and then go to the next list and go to the next list. Think of how many, and I've told this to Division I's that we're looking to like hire a guy from Division III. They go, hey, you've worked with this guy before. What do you think? Well, they're the most thorough people out there.
Yeah.
Brains have to work differently because the game is different. The recruiting is different. Their pool of players is much larger, because it's much larger until it starts shrinking when people say no, 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 no. And guess who the first people that call are? The ones that said no, 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 no. They come back. But I mean, that's something else to kind of keep in mind. Never squash a gift is what my friend has told me in a phone call. And this, where we're at with recruiting, a phone call should mean a lot to a lot of people. It's a little bit of a gift.
Coaches, the Jamodi podcast is powered by Shoot 360. The future of basketball has arrived in Dallas-Fort Worth. Shoot 360 combines the latest sports technology with the fundamentals of basketball skill development. The result is a one-of-a-kind video game-like basketball program designed to improve your shooting, dribbling, and passing. Visit shoot360dfw.com to learn more and register for your free 1-hour workout evaluation. Shoot 360, the future of basketball is here. You've talked a little bit about how the conversations that you get to have with these coaches at your events, or them calling you. Let's say they're calling about Johnny. And what questions do college coaches typically ask you? Because obviously they've seen him if they're talking to you about him, or maybe not. Maybe that, hey, I heard this name. What have you looked at? But most likely they've seen him. But what questions are you getting from those college coaches about players?
First thing is, how good do we think he is? And I say we is because there's a lot. We are fortunate that our company has 4 or 5 evaluators that we can reach to, and we talk about these kids. I mean, it's not just us watching it and sending a tweet out. There's a lot of things in the background that goes on to help the college coaches. So when that initial phone call, they want to make sure, just like anybody else, hey, if I do the dishes and I clean the stove, I like it when my wife goes, oh, wow, that's a great job. And I'll ask her, I say, hey, did you notice?
Yeah.
I did something today for the family. And so it's kind of the same thing. They want to be able, college coach wants to be able to sit here and go, what is your opinion? Because you've seen them more, because you're in the state of Texas. What's your opinion? And they want to make sure that we align with each other. Then the next thing is, if we know anything about a kid, and not so much the personal, because you can find out real quick about somebody's personal life by scrolling through the social media.
That's
But
true.
it's more of if there's grades involved, like well, typically those things aren't always at our fingertips. So then you connect them with the summer coach or with the high school coach and so forth. But they want to know basically also probably one of the best questions, like attitude. What is the attitude like? What is it? What happens after the game's over? Do you see them in the stands? Are you talking to them? What do they, who else may be recruiting them? There's just these little lines of questions that pop up that where it was probably more frequent 10 years ago or so, about maybe a little bit more of their character, trying to really get deep down in there. But social media, you can't hide much in there.
Right.
And so they're those are the type of things that they're asking for, is just general questions that I may have come across or talked to their high school coach. And so it's and these people that I talk to, we there just could be a broad kind of questions, but they always want to know if what they've seen is what I have seen, because we as a staff, because we concentrate on Texas high school basketball. I mean, I can tell you, I mean, that you might be playing in an Arkansas team, and I'm watching a San Antonio team or a Austin. I get to focus on that Austin team, and then somebody might ask me about somebody. I might know something about the Arkansas guy, but I want to focus on those 12.
Yeah.
That I am that I'm going to see more often, and especially for those high school coaches.
Going back to showing up, I can't imagine if a smarter thing for players to do than to go to almost any GASO event that you can. Like I'm convinced I somehow wound up in because in the top players ranking. I think I was 8 at my highest. Like that was the best I ever got, which golly, like thankful. And I do believe though that a large part of it was because I got in front of Coach Kunstad as much as I could. I mean, we went to all of those, whether it was San Antonio, in Waco, all those camps that we could go get a random jersey on with a random number, and you just play 3 or 4 games. And then also, I mean, it does help having a high school coach that was very active and had relationships with those guys. But I think to the point that you just said, how huge of an advantage is it to have you and your staff really know about these players because they've shown up and they've been to a lot of places.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about this more also at GASO with Ryan. I work with Ryan Massett, as you've interviewed before, and he's just such a special mind of like strategy and stuff. And we have a whole education series coming out on recruiting.
Nice.
And we're using our own experiences, whether you were recruited in college, because we've had Michael Timmons, who is our film director and our producer of all of our film and social media. Lyndon played at Division II. Michael played at JUCO in Division III at UTD that you mentioned. Mass was a high school coach. I have multiple experiences at 2 different levels, and I can tell you this. I was at Texas A&M Kingsville 20 years ago. The Division II has not changed in terms of probably qualifications and all the way the league is played. The Lone Star Conference is one of the best in the country, and there's 19 teams and right here in the state of Texas, and that's in that league. And so it's there's a lot to know. And so I'm just mentioning this because we're educating ourselves as long as also moving forward with the other, hopefully helping parents and players along the way. I think one thing that that you touched on, we have all these camps and these series and these GASOs. You don't have to come to every GASO, and you shouldn't. It's just like anything else. You're not going to just go to the same restaurant every Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday if you're going to go out to dinner. You're going to pick something different, and that's great because you get to uh, um, you know play against different teams. Maybe somebody from out of state if you travel to Kansas and there's so many options out there. I think the one thing that playing in front of us does and that people don't see is that the notes that are taken that are constantly there for the college coaches and being updated in a database that we have. The 2024 list is already up and maybe nearing 300. You just never know what player is really going to pop and who's going to like which player. And so we're taking notes. We have we do probably have our own kind of favorites and that we have on our in our own personal database as we're going through all of this, but we talk about just about every single player that we see. And especially these camps that we're transitioning not just from link camp, we're transferring to an all academic. It's going to be academic link camp. And so there's no guessing who this is for. This is academic link camp. And, those types of just the academic alone, I've already talked to like the Princetons and the Division threes around here, the D1s up in the Northeast and stuff. Those camps are specialized for these kids, especially for those that, hey, you might be somebody from El Paso or Lubbock that you weren't on a great high school team. That's okay. They come to the link camp or a Thompson, Texas, or one of our camps that we have to kind of measure where they are. It's a measuring stick for some kids. And I mean, this goes all the way back, like you said, to the beginning of the 2000 or late 90s when Mike Kunstadt did these individual camps to allow people to come and play and get evaluated, because we take the information. Things have not changed in the sense of taking the information and giving to college coaches. That's always been the same. The delivery of it is different now with obviously with technology and so forth. And so those camps are specialized to give opportunity, to give not just the player, but us an opportunity. There's been plenty of people that have walked through that door and go, golly, he's a homeschool kid in San Antonio. And then you get to go talk to that kid like, are you here to be a better basketball player? Are you here to, I want to play college basketball? And then it's just so easy to kind of feed those names to those college coaches.
Love that. Really excited about that academic camp because, being at a private school and one that it's really hard to get into. I think there's definitely a large pool of players in Texas that, maybe if they go to, let's just say it's an open GASO where anybody can come, well, they'll fall through the cracks or not really get the same. I guess everybody has the same opportunity, so I don't want to be that parent or that, but like, it's just, it could be different than, okay, let's get all of these dudes, 3.2, 3.5 or above in the gym. And so that coaches that, especially like their grade point average quality, allows them to go to these schools. And that's a different pool right there. I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, because what I think that the academic kid in the state of Texas, like we've had to really, and Mike Kunstadt, if we can talk about, I know that you to him a few months back, but what he has done has been really amazing as you kind of just sit back as a person, not me as a former, he's been retired for 4 or 5 years, not because he was one of my closest friends and my boss. When you sit back and you look at youth sports, what he kind of started, and then other people came in and filled in any kind of gaps that they felt that were needed and so forth. And everybody wants to be in Texas. Think about that. Think of all of the camps that come to Texas. Well, we're a Texas brand, we're Texas made, and we're here for those Texas kids because, I'm sure you've seen your kids get on a flight to go to Boston for an academic camp. Well, let's just have Texas kids just stay in Texas, and we'll bring information to the college coaches. And the college coaches also are very excited because they're sending us information, because these kids and the academic are not just going to walk out with a t-shirt. They're going to walk out with hopefully a binder of about 50 or 60 schools that participated with literature of like This is what Harvard is. This is the enrollment. This is the cost. This is the average grades to get in, and so forth. And so everything's always a teaching moment. Everything is always, and I'm a teacher by heart. I come from teaching background, my wife and everybody. And so I always look for those teachable moments of like, we're not here just to watch basketball. We're here to educate.
When do you think, have you guys had an academic camp yet? Or when do you think that's going to start up?
Going to start in September.
Awesome.
We've had academic camps because when you fill out the forms, it always asks for academic information.
Sure.
But it was something that we're well staffed for, and it's time. I mean, timing's everything, and this has been on our minds, and especially on my mind for probably 8 to 10 years of how, when we were ready. And so,
man, I'll tell you, there will be quite a few faith lines there. Because I think that's an event, though, that I can really tell my guys, like, man, make sure that weekend is free, because they say that they're interested in playing college basketball. And because they can be here, most likely academically it fits, and maybe even financially, because if they can afford to be here, I think a stage like that for them, they'll leave knowing for sure. Like, this is, I can do this, or I got a lot more work to do.
And then also, it's very, like I said, it's very specific. If you're an academic kid and you're going to be there or not, type of scenario. And it's just like, all what we have tried to do over the last few years as we continue to grow as a company and hire more staff is like, where are the holes that need to be fixed that we're equipped to do. And so it's but also you've been through this, so you've seen a little bit of the evolution. Some of it's like nothing new. It's just how can we be better at our jobs of delivering the information, the message.
The Jamodi podcast is powered by Sideline Interactive. Sideline Interactive is the leading manufacturer for high-quality, innovative scoring tables and LED video display boards that help coaches and schools bring more excitement to fans, create huge fundraising opportunities, and make their jobs easier. Visit sidelineinteractive.com to check out their amazing products.
Sometimes I see on Twitter or anywhere on social media, almost like this war between the select coaches and school coaches, and this idea between that select coaches are really where their college scholarships are going to come from. And so as a high school coach, you can kind of sometimes just step back and be like, hey, listen, it's just on them. They need the kids and the parents and the select coach. That's where it's going to come from. And then you see sometimes select coaches saying, hey, high school coaches, if you're not getting your kids scholarships, and I remember Wes Watson sitting across me going like, what do these people think? That I just got a drawer full of scholarships? I can just pull it up like, here you go. And so where do you see, I think I want to know, and a lot of coaches, where do you see, what's the role of the high school coach in a player's recruiting today where we are?
I think the first thing that we have to always remember is that y'all have a tough job to do. You're hired as a teacher first. Basketball is always secondary. And so there is also comes a lot of responsibility when you're a head coach or assistant coach and you have your own personal goals that you want to reach. And so for a high school coach, I think first off, I think that there's also a dynamic here of two different seasons. Each play a role depending on that season, whether it's the high school season that feeds and transfers into the spring and summer seasons. I think everybody involved could really do a great job for one kid. And the role of the high school coach, I think, is to prepare them to compete. I mean, y'all have you have multiple teams of varsity, sub varsity, and so forth, freshman teams. And so the role is the role. I'm not sure that it's up to anybody to get a kid a scholarship. Kids are limited. We all have flaws, whether we're a basketball player or whether we're a school teacher. We always can go to somebody else that's more of an expert in the things that we can't do. And so the high school coach, I think, has such a big job of preparing somebody, putting in, when you put in strategy, because y'all have the time after school during practices, whereas a summer coach doesn't have hands-on 5 days a week like y'all do. So what are you doing? You're teaching these kids, from my standpoint, of teaching them probably some life lessons, a little bit of obviously keeping up with having to help them keep up with academics if they need to, and reminding them tests are coming up or what have you, but also how do we play basketball and how are we going to win as a basketball team? What is your role on this basketball team? Because you touched on it earlier. Not everybody can be a superstar person. Everybody needs to fit in to one of those 5 slots when they're on the court. And so that's where the high school coach, now all of that, now we find out what's translatable to the college game. And so the high school coaches, I believe that y'all are preparing them for something more. And I think also with the TABC is getting y'all the ability to get also back in front of those college coaches to have the number right at their fingertips to call, because you're with them, X amount of hours per week. And so I don't know if it's so much their role. I think is so much different than when you play in spring and summer, and your son goes in and he has a spring and summer coach, and it's not always just you. And so, and it's also, and it just kind of probably depends on also the coach. How far does the high school coach want to take their their relationship with the parents, with the player, what they want to do. I get a lot of random calls from guys high school head coaches that I have never spoken to, but they're like, what should I be doing? And it's okay not to know, because it's very difficult. Things have changed in 3 years. In 3 years, things have changed from when you were recruited. There's just I don't even know if it's a cycle yet. I'm thinking we're going to get back to an old cycle in 2025, which I'll probably get to later, but it's just more so of like, there's a lot to know. But I always tell parents, and I always tell players or anybody, the more you win, the deeper you get in a playoff, the even more recognition you're going to get. It's not on one single person of a high school coach calling, get him a scholarship. But definitely that high school coach is there to win games, hopefully, and be competitive. And what is that? That translates. And you can continue to go down the road to see how far in a playoff run at TAPS or UIL that you go. And we've seen it. We have seen a no-name guy that we saw for 5 or 6 times in the past 2 or 3 years, and now he's a senior, and they get hot at that right moment, and all of a sudden they're in the state finals, and then they're getting a scholarship to a Division I or Division II. So it's I think being proactive, though, as a high school head coach, especially for those that, and I think those that have had experiences, I don't know if I want to mention, like, if you're at a certain school, no matter where you're part of, college coaches are always going to call that school, that head coach, every year, because eventually they're going to have a player. And those coaches also, I'll just use it like David Martinez as the example here from a Tascasita. And so he's always going to have a traditional player 2 or 3 a year. I mean, he's had Carson Edwards that went to Purdue and had a heck of a career there, and you just never know. But those types of guys, like a David Martinez, knows that he's got to prepare his guys for that next level, and it comes kind of natural. Whereas somebody else might go, golly, I got this diamond in the rough, and like I just need some questions answered. And I think there's more coaches, high school coaches, that are willing to step up and ask those questions. And they're doing it. And social media has also changed too, because social media is your friend and your enemy because parents see who's active on their Twitters or their social media, their Instagrams. You as coaches, like, you didn't list my son as the highest, he's going to 5 yesterday.
Hey, you missed one assist on his on the score.
And there's got to be some grace here too, because I mean, so many of our friends are high school coaches, right? I went to college with many of them that are doing great stuff across the state, and it's like one of my friends was like, "This is not the job that I was taught to do.
Hmm.
I want to coach, but now I have to control. I since I'm in charge of the program, I'm in charge of the social media. So that way I know if anything happens, there's only one person to blame. It's me. So now so but even those little steps can help. And you know what? A lot of this also falls on the player, because the player, you have to be good, great, whatever you want to call yourself, in order to play at the next level. It's not up to the high school coach. It's not up to your summer league coach. It's kind of up to you. Where's your ability? So I think some people, I think that where you can be great at any job, but how do you prepare yourself for that? Do you want to be the best teammate, or do you want to be the best you so you can go get a scholarship? What are you putting in line first? What is your first priority as a high school player?
It's good.
That has to fall. I'm a 9 and 7-year-old, right or wrong. I don't know if this is good parenting or not, but they get a say. When they have a feeling, they get to express that feeling with no boundaries. I think that when you're 16, 17, 18-year-old, you entering as a young adult, you have to take responsibility, and it starts with you. How hard are you working? How, saying how bad do you want it? Well, I think both teams want it, right? When you go out there, they just wanted it more. I disagree with that. It came down to one or two plays. And it's the same thing. I just don't know, how bad do you want it? Well, Phil Forte is probably one of the best examples. That dude, I go back to this. He's one of those guards who are 6 foot and under, but he was up every morning at 4:30. He was up at 5 o'clock. Maybe I'm exaggerating the time, but
no, it's legit. Yep.
He was out there shooting baskets. He was out there hitting 500 shots, 1,000 shots. And what did he do at the end of the night? He did it again.
Yep.
But not everybody is programmed like a 1%er. We have to be able to realize who we are. Because it is such even to this day, call Phil Forte, ask him what time he gets up every morning, what he does. He's working out at 5 or 5:30. That guy's a machine. I use that as an example because it's a very easy example, and everybody probably across the state probably is familiar with Phil Forte. Oh, you know a Phil Forte.
Yeah.
Where are you? Don't blame other people. What are you doing to earn your scholarship? If you can play, you will be found. That's just plain and simple.
And the truth is, and you nailed it right there at the end.
That's a long way of saying how much is a high school coach.
No, it's good. But the truth is why aren't there more Phil Fortes? Because it's freaking hard to do that. It takes so much time. You have to sacrifice so much. And the majority, use that word 1%er. Yeah, the 99% aren't willing to do that. And there's nothing wrong with that. That doesn't mean that you're a bad player or a bad person, but just don't be surprised when your high school career is over and you don't have exactly what you want. Because to Stan Bonowitz's idea of gassing out, I mean, most players, in my opinion, don't gas out. They don't reach that ceiling. They're not even near it because they're not willing to sacrifice. I think that's what's our role as high school coaches is to speak in truth and love and let them know when what their aspirations are, their habits are not on par with those aspirations, or celebrate and encourage when you do see them putting in the time necessary and help them to keep going with that delayed gratification when you don't feel like you're seeing improvement. I think there's two statements that as high school coaches we got to be careful of. One is that it's all up to select ball. I don't agree with that. And then two, that if they're good, they'll be found. Because even though that's true, there's those guys that once they do get seen, okay, maybe more of a door can open up. And that, because I agree with that statement. I don't care what program you play. If you can hoop, man, someone's going to find you. But what can I do as a high school coach instead of just sitting back and resting on that?
like you said, kind of putting it all on the player. Instead of that, what else can I do? And which is, so my question to you then is, let's just say I have a player that for whatever reason, maybe he's a little smaller, maybe athleticism hasn't kicked in, but I see something in him. Is it helpful to send even highlight clips out, or to start contacting coaches early on a kid that, like right now, okay, well, let me see, he should come out to us. In my heart, I'm like, I don't know if he's ready yet, but so I guess what's the balance there for a high school coach?
So, and I understand your question, and even with social media, there's a lot of kids, because it's called Twitter recruiting. But if, like I said, I think there is some substance there that if you can play, people are going to find you, because when they start traveling in the time of spring and summer, when they do travel, there's some guys on that list that you go, where was he? Well, he was over in Levelland, Texas, which most people know, but I'm just using to kind of throwing out some, maybe Dodge, Texas or something. But everything is needs to be structured. And Ryan Massett has some resources that he had built, and as a high school coach, sending out highlights are great because it piques the interest. I sent somebody yesterday, a Division I coach, a clip that he asked for, and it's a guy that it was just a dunk. And this is a foreign kid that I had come across that was sent to me. So he goes and he just goes from the hash mark, and it just looks like he's just in the air forever and does. He goes, well, that piqued my interest. I need film. So I got him in touch with whoever. That was just because through a conversation, right? For you, the same thing. It's sending out highlights are great because that's going to pique the interest. But I told you that things haven't changed in many, many years. It kind of goes back to my experience. I wanted a full game film of somebody so you can see the good, the bad. You want a good game? It's always great to send a college coach, when they have the time, to watch a good game, an okay game, and a bad game. Because what did you do in that bad game? Did you go 2 for 12, which is okay because it happens, right? But what were you doing to make up for your lack of, maybe you just weren't focused that day. Maybe you just had a bad day, but you had 4 steals, you had 6 rebounds, you were using your intelligence, you saw the clock, you called the timeout at the right time. That was the unsolicited by the high school coach. Bad games can still equal great outcomes for you as a player. And that's really getting probably more to your point of like the high school coach. It can be, I've never heard of a coach upset for a high school coach reaching out. I mean, now there are like some services that just like mass produce and that parents pay for. And unfortunately, there will be college coaches that hit select all, delete.
Yeah.
Because you don't know what you're getting. The personal part about this is you talking to that college coach, whether you had a relationship with them or not. But that leads to different things. Because now, once you kind of set that stage and they have highlights of 100% shooting percentage, and then they have a good game, an okay game, and a bad game. Now they have a lot to draw from.
Yeah.
But 9 times out of 10, well, I don't know what the percentage is. I can't say 90% of the time. And highlights will pique somebody's interest. And that's where it all starts from. Because we're also in a time where college coaches can do a lot of things by sitting at their desk. Not that they're not working. It's just recruiting for different levels have gotten easier because of the portal, and somebody sitting there going, oh, I'm going to go steal one in this class. Nobody's recruiting this kid. So you never know if your film's going to get into the right hand. And so that's where the proactiveness of the high school coach helps, but it also helps that you have a good player.
And I love, that's a great nugget too, because as a coaching piece, talking to players, like guys, listen, I mean, even in your bad games, there's a lot that we can learn from that. How do you handle adversity? What kind of teammate are you? Are you a guy that they can have you in the foxhole with them? Like, I think, Coach, or I keep calling you Coach because you did Coach, but yeah, like, Blue, that was a great nugget right there.
Yeah, there's just so, but also the the player is what we're learning too, is an extension of everything that they ever done because of the social. If a player will set up, you know, if you're going by, if your Twitter handle, because Twitter's used so much, is AW2424, and then you put Ryan, well, how many of those are out there? You can't find it.
Yeah, that's spam. That's spam. Yeah.
And so but some kids are just so generically putting something up there or putting a nickname. No one's going to find you. And so that extension of where the high school coach starts and stops, or where the summer and then transitions into the spring and summer coaches and what their responsibilities are. Because I think there are two different responsibilities. But if you put it, what is it, a Venn diagram, you're going to have a lot in that middle there that are the same, that overlap.
That's right.
But but a player can help themselves. A Twitter is your billboard. The Twitter is your marketing tool, is your branding. And we also have, and things I'm telling you are things that we have in store or already have released. And
I have seen that, and I really appreciate on social media, and Ryan, I think, is a big part of that too. But you guys have been giving out a lot of helpful resources to parents and players in the form of, like, this is what your Instagram, this is what your Twitter should look like, and helpful hints. Like, I just really appreciate that.
Yeah, and so that right there alone is the gateway to so many things.
Yep.
Because there are college coaches that look on there. There are, it's easy for if you're an academic, put your GPA. But you can put as much information on there as you want. I think, some things might be better if you leave it for a DM so you can send them something else that a college coach might need. But I think it's there's three parts to this, and there's or even four, because there's the parent, the player, the high school coach, and the spring summer coach. There's just a lot right there to cover.
I'm going to do it. I'm going to ask you, because you kind of said it earlier about the portal. Oh. How I know we all know it's affected recruiting, but how has it affected the recruiting process for high school players, and where do you see that going in the future?
So I'm going to throw out generically a number here to you. So back in 2020, when the NCAA decided that they were going to grant everybody an extra year, 300. Let's say there's 350 Division I. I think there's 363 Division I teams. Okay.
Yeah.
Right around there. Okay. So let's just say we'll even make it smaller. 300 teams with 13 scholarships per program. All right. So now you take that's over 3,000. That's pushing 13. What is that? Do your quick math. It's like 3,500 students.
That's on you, man.
Yeah. It's about 35. I'm just like generically using 300.
Yeah.
So you're pushing 300, and say there's 3,500 extra scholarship years. That doesn't run out until 2025. Now it's decreased. That number has decreased, obviously, over time, depending on which year. And I'm very OCD, so so 350 times 13 was 4,550 scholarships that were basically given back to somebody that already had it. So what the portal has done now that these guys have an extra year, all of the COVID years will run out, I believe, in 2025. And I think that will be a cycle back to having to go get more high school kids. We've seen a couple cycles, though, before I hit on the 2025 class, is that before the pandemic, you had the over recruitment of junior college kids. They were going high major, mid majors, when really those players weren't really suited for that level, but they were getting recruited at that level because of a need. Mm. So now you got the portal here who has changed basically everybody wants to be older, everybody wants experience, right? And these college coaches are willing to take that 1 year experience, that 1 year left of that COVID year to make that run with 23s and 24-year-olds. Okay.
Yeah.
So when this is happening, now you have all of these players in a portal, which this year I feel like my example of the junior college years of people getting over recruited, the portal's not very talented this year, though it's once again, it's deep. So people are going to take a chance on a 23-year-old over a 17, 18-year-old coming out of high school. Is that right or wrong? That's just the way it is right now. Now, when we get to the class of 2025, graduating class of 2025 in college, we should see all of those COVID years moved out. Okay, because there's still thousands of those scholarships that are still out there for that 22, 23, 24-year-old. Where do we go from there? The portal's still going to be in play. People are still going to be using NIL money. People are still going to jump into the portal and go to a higher level. People are going to switch schools. But I think when we get to that 2025, you're going to see more of those high school kids creeping with their opportunities again. Because like I said earlier, there's if you're a college coach at a non-D1 or even a low Division I or mid-major, you can do a lot of things just right here, looking at your screen, looking at highlights that were sent from the high school coach, looking at reading Twitter, whatever you want to get your resources from. All of a sudden now you're able to zone in right now on some kids that maybe you weren't able to a few years ago, especially the non-Division ones. They're able to zone in, and a phone call is that gift, right? That we talked about earlier. You go with it because you know what? You may fall in love with a Division II or D3, and then later on before you commit, then you get a Division I offer or something. It's just you just never know how it's going to play out. But there's plenty of opportunities right now at different levels for high school kids as long as they're patient. So
there it is. I think you nailed it, because my follow-up was going to be, so the next 2 years, what this year and then next, because that's really what we're talking about. Because that following year, that 2025 year, it might start to get, I think normal is a matter of perspective. Like it's, but so what do the kids do right now when you're not in the top 100 on any given list? And like, I guess you said it'd be patient, but
here's you've hit on that a couple of times, and you're saying a top 100 list, which are rankings.
Right.
Rankings are a guideline, and especially if the way we do things, and the college coaches get our information, there's tiers to everything. There's that tier, there's that level of play. And the new top 100 is really kind of like the top 150, because there's so many kids out there, because you just don't know. I've seen through social media of kids that like I said, that I had never heard of, right? I don't see everybody. And they're going to Southwest Baptist University at Trinity or something. And you're like, how did that coach get connected with this kid for that player when all these other ones are, which these other ones are pretty good and aren't being looked at? And so you just never know. And so rankings, I look at it as, you can't get caught up in rankings with the number, because then you can get really, really stressed and everything else. And then, but those are a guideline. Because because 1, 2, and 3, if you're looking at numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, maybe 1 through 10, 1 through, that might mean something. Like that really does have a.
And I think that's really what I meant to by that, the top, because top 100 to me, I was referring to more in the country, because then you look at that top 10 list in most states, and I mean that's kind of the similar names are circulating through that. But then. I was just reminded, because I think you nailed it. Mike Neighbors had a great quote about, because they were ranked something, in the top 20 for their team. And I think it's important for even coaches in the high school teams to think about it like this: like, rankings don't mean everything, and you got to think that way. And then he said, but they don't mean nothing.
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
it means something, but it can't be,
You're watching. Yeah.
I've arrived. Come on in, coaches. I'm on the top 150 list. I can stop training. I can stop, like, oh man, that fuel you to do more. And because it is like, it's like the moment that a player gets a response, they get a call, they get a handwritten letter, they get a program following them, like, it doesn't mean everything. It doesn't mean you've got an offer, but it doesn't mean nothing either.
Right. And that's people watch that. You bring it. Man, I was talking to somebody the other day who's a former college coach, and I was kind of there's always a learning experience, I think, in most conversations. Not all. There's never anything absolute, right?
Hopefully, in this one, there's been on my end for sure. But I don't
Man,
know
you're gonna learn real quick. Like, what was Blue talking about there? I gotta go.
Whatever.
Oh God, you don't want to be in an office with me. Yes, ass. Oh gosh, it can get crazy. So just talking to somebody, I was talking to a former college coach, and he said, yeah, we went to this tournament, and so and so started following him. And I had to think there for a second, and I'm processing, and I get off the phone. I go, following. So how many games did these coaches follow him? And I got on social media, and I went and I looked specifically. It's like they're following him on social media. This is a whole other topic for another session.
But it's a big deal.
It's a big deal. I learned at that point. I was like, oh, they're not like you said, they're not actively recruiting him, but they're following him.
Yeah.
Something happened.
It's like when kids say, we're just talking. Well, so are you dating or are you not? Exactly. Like, what is that? It's the beginning. Yeah. It's moving in that direction. And I think what a great
oh my gosh.
Blue, the speed round. I want to get this in before I've got to jump off, but favorite ice cream flavor?
Vanilla. Pretty plain.
Greatest shooter of all time?
Ray Allen is the first one that comes to me, even though I want to say Sean Elliott because I'm a San Antonio guy, but go ahead.
Wow. There you go.
37.5% from 3-pointers.
Yeah.
What was it? The Memorial Day Miracle when he had his feet. Yeah, anyway. Keep going.
Texting or talking?
Oh, talking.
Greatest.
Hey, I get too many things mixed up in translation with my wife. I need to talk.
That's fair. Yeah. Greatest basketball movie of all time?
I was going to say Teen Wolf earlier, but that's not really, even though they won a city's championship. I don't know if you've ever seen the movie, but
oh yeah.
I mean, it's Hoosiers, right?
I'll just say this. Michael J. Fox did not, in my opinion, pass for a basketball player. I just did not believe it at all.
Hey, I didn't know a 5'2" guy could dunk the way he did.
That's right. Okay, this I'm interested about. For high school, shot clock or no shot clock?
I want a shot clock. I'm all about thinkers. I want somebody to think. I want a coach to think. I want a ball in the point guard's hand with 12 seconds and see what he's going to run.
No, I love that. I love that. And I just didn't know how you would view it because, I mean, you do watch so many high school games. It
comes into play only a couple times.
Yep.
But I like the thinking man part of it.
Yeah.
I like the last 2 minutes of a game.
I love that. Favorite holiday?
Christmas.
What book would you give someone?
More Than a Carpenter.
Nice. Favorite place to travel?
Well, this is on my to-do list. So I'm going to take the kids. We're going to travel. We're going to before they get out of high school, they're going to visit all 3 military academies.
Very cool. Yeah,
they're beautiful places, and I think that them knowing our history and
a little appreciation.
Yeah.
Okay, as an evaluator, what's your biggest basketball pet peeve?
Dumb basketball. I do not like I think I look at it from a guard perspective of if get the ball out of your hands. Don't over dribbling, and then all of a sudden, you're down to 3 seconds because for the past 13 seconds, you knew in your mind you wanted to take that last shot and play hero ball. And what do? You go commit a charge, or you turn the ball over.
Yeah,
I can't stand it.
Love that. How many cups of coffee do you drink per day?
Okay, so I believe it or not, I take ADHD medicine. So I had to stop with the coffee, but on my good days of coffee, I could probably hit about 6 or 7.
Attaboy. Let's go. Let's get
Yeah.
real here.
So,
Last one, especially because I already know the Star Wars one. So last question. In basketball, who is the GOAT?
That's Michael Jordan. No, there's no
hesitation.
Yeah. No. And there won't be any hesitation for my 7-year-old.
So, nice. You're training him well. Star Wars, Michael Jordan, military academies, you got it.
Oh, yeah. And coffee. I miss my coffee every once in a while.
Yeah. Hey, man, this was so enjoyable. And I like I said at the beginning, I've really appreciated our friendship. I do feel like you're one of the best people out there. But really, thank you for everything that you do for the game and that you do for players. Because I can't imagine the way that Coach Thomas influenced my life. A lot of these players won't even realize or know how much you've helped or changed the trajectory of their path. So really appreciate you, man.
Let me end on this right here, because you talk about Coach Tommy Thomas. I think he means a lot to a lot of people, and I was stunned. So the first time I meet him, my last name obviously is Zertuche. I just introduced myself as Blue. I go up to him. I might have told you a story. He goes, "Hey, I'm Tommy Thomas." I go, "I'm Blue." And he takes this pause. He goes, "What's your name?" I go, "Blue." He goes, "What do you think you are, Madonna?" Like he So yes, Tommy. I just still go by Blue.
That's right.
In Tommy Thomas fashion. It was never a dull moment with him. So
man, this was all.
I went to a lunch or two with him and Coach Foster. Oh, goodness.
That's good. That's a good time.
Yeah.
Well, man, hey, just really appreciate your time. This was awesome.
All right, buddy. Anytime. I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you for checking out today's episode. Please take a moment to subscribe to this podcast, share it with your fellow coaches, and find us on social media for what's coming up next on the Jamodi Podcast. It's just a matter of doing it.